Do you agree that there's a lot of parents who neglect those children?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that those kids should suffer because they have bad parents?
No.
Okay,
I
so
don't think they should, but bad shit happens.
On to the next point.
And there's so many people that die from car accidents, bro. We get shit. It's bad. Up shit happens. Like we can't save everybody. We can't save everybody, bro. Like it is.
But just because we can't save everybody doesn't mean we don't try.
I'm advocating for kids to take advantage of the surplus of food available to them in different ways that it is.
Yeah.
It's not on somebody to do it, bro. Like, you know, you're shitty parents. I get it, dog. This life. Life is fucking hard, dog. And some children are born in up circumstances, bro. It is what it is.
Yeah, but I had a debate with Stevie Knight from Night Talk. He reached out to me to have a discussion after he covered our Kirk video a while back. There's like two parts that really like threw me off a lot.
There should be free school lunch for all children.
No.
Why?
Of course not. Because parents should feed their kids, not the government.
What if they can't?
Go get a job.
A child? You
No,
want
the
child
parents should go get the job. You are a dumb dude. Don't give me this stuff. First of all, this is really
I want children to eat?
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. It does not exist. We have a child obesity problem.
And I'm like, if you just Google it, what he said is a blatant lie. But the smugness with which he said that stuff, he's like, well, the parents should pay it. Well, we all know there's bad parents out there. We all know there's like parents who neglect their kids, parents who got on drugs, whatever it could be. And Stevie was like aggressively defending this stance. Go get food stamps. You can get food at churches. There's no reason to starve. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there's no reason to starve in America. It's like 1% of households have like technically a hunger issue, bro. But people are not starving to death in America, bro. Motherfuckers are fat as hell.
But I remember just throwing me off because I'm like, what possesses an adult to look like a 7-year-old? And like I said, there's 14 million kids suffer from food scarcity. That means they don't know where they're gonna get their next meal. I went to school with niggas like that. Y'all didn't go to school with nobody who just sometimes they would show up and they didn't have a lunch and the teacher would sometimes have to fill in if they would. But I remember some lunches, the kids didn't get shit. They used to have to eat out of other kids' boxes. And you know, people are like, oh, well, what's wrong with skipping a meal? When you're in development, it's bad. It stunts their growth. Their academic scores are lower on average as well.
It is hard to believe, but a government report out tonight says more than 17 million American children don't know where their next meal is coming from. Many count on school food programs, but what happens now that school is out?
And then afterwards, Stevie's like, well,
if homeless are hungry, they can go get some fucking food, dog. Food stamps, bro. The homeless don't go hungry, bro. They can go get a meal if they want to get a meal.
You're comparing children to homeless. Have you not been a child before? Do you think kids know where to? Yeah, but the teacher
call parties that do this for a living to find children the resources that they need. Like teachers do this all the time. They'll see a child that may be neglected and they'll make the calls or alert people to, you know, intervene.
You want to call child services? You want to put them in foster care?
It may be better than having the shooty ass parents.
Have you looked into foster care, Stevie? Have you Googled foster care?
Yeah, but you're describing these parents as ain't shit, bro. Like it is bad shit happens.
You want the teacher to wait till the kid's like emaciated and clearly skinned? You know what I mean? It's
that's what
crazy.
I'm saying. I was like, okay, you just want to be right just to be right. What are we doing? Is that what you think the kid is gonna go out? Oh yeah, you know what? My lunch break. Let me go to this food bank real quick. Or hop in my car and go. Oh no. Why am I even trying to say this to someone? It's like you don't know teachers. You don't know what teachers do. You haven't never been to school. It's okay to be wrong and say like, you know what? Hey, you're right.
And then afterwards, it kept getting colder and colder. He's like, you know, all these EBT stamps, you get food stamps. I'm like, you want a 10-year-old to get food stamps? Like, y'all know. And then it kept going. And at one point, he just said, well, listen, man, it is what it is.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and the world's not perfect, dog. It's not utopia, bro. So it's like, I get, and then I'm a capitalist, dog. I'm not in support of the government coming out taking care of everything. I know it's a problem. I never said what I want to do about it. I could care less. Like, it is what it is, dog. This life is fucking hard, dog. And some children are born in fucked up circumstances, bro. It is what it is.
But to kids not having access to food, shit happens. And I remember thinking, like now with hindsight, I remember why this moment really stuck out to me. It's like, if you talk like that about kids not having access to food, is it any wonder why people think you guys are monsters? I don't agree with it. I think it's an abhorrent view to hold. But this is the extremism that leads to somebody like Charlie Kirk getting shot. This kind of like bad faith, almost like mean-spirited. It's like, I don't understand what's Christian about that either. That's not yours, Christian, but Charlie is. Like, we have kids that are suffering. You guys are like super anti-abortion, pro-life. You guys want to preserve. Then these kids come out and there's like this smug attitude of like,
I'm pro-life. I'm pro-life. But if you're hungry, man, shit happens.
I feel like society's best when we take care of the less fortunate, be it the homeless, be it the mentally ill, be it the children. And it just, at some points, I'm like, I don't know if we really disagree on this for real.
That's just because,
or you're just being mean-spirited about it. I understand the principle of like not wanting the government to pay for everything. But kids, I also thought to myself, when you have this attitude of, yo, shit happens, tough luck. Okay, well, shit happens. Charlie Kirk got shot.
tough luck.
Shit happened. Political violence.
No.
That kind of apathy where you just, I'm a capitalist. I don't believe the government should be involved in this. Bro, that was one of the wildest moments for me. Like, you understand your kid gets on a school bus paid for by the government. You understand that the government mandates you to be at school 8 hours, and if you're not, it's illegal, and they can come for you. So the government gonna force you to be at school, but they're not gonna make sure you all right. What? Yeah, it's also kind of funny because if you think about it, the government's already really involved with our children, right? They are the ones who are expected to set up school buses and take the kids to school. If the school's dangerous enough, they get security systems, they get metal detectors, right? We expect them to have a school resource for health in case some of the kids get sick. So there's a lot of things that during those 8 hours we offset to the government, but somehow lunch is too much. And then also Stevie's argument was essentially like,
I'm talking about like teachers making calls to get, the correct parties involved to address a child, to find a potential food for them.
I'm gonna disagree. I think that stance is crazy.
You don't think there's other ways for children to get food outside?
I don't know. Have you ever been a kid? You think kids just know where to get free food every day? You truly think kids know what the resources are? Like, what are we talking about, man?
I don't know what their day-to-day is, man, but maybe there's meetings or like ways that teachers can express this to children to like educate them on.
So you want the government to make sure the kids know where to get access to. Why wouldn't you just give the kids the food?
Yo, at that point,
and that's why I stopped for a second. I'm like, isn't this just mean-spirited? Like, why are we choosing a more expensive option, a more complicated option, which requires underpaid teacher who are already overworked to go do jobs that are not for teachers?
At some point, I was like, what am I even watching? Mm-hmm. Because I'm like, when your first thing was no, the government shouldn't be involved. No, not that. They should do this, but that doesn't make sense. Okay, well, they should do that. Well, that doesn't make sense. So then what? Well, government.
Yeah. At first, he didn't even believe that this whole food scarcity thing is a thing, right?
You are a dumb dude. Don't give me this stuff. First of all, this is really
I want children to eat?
Of course I do. Show me a single child in America going hungry. Doesn't exist. It does not exist. We have a child obesity problem.
I'll ask you a question. Which one is higher, the amount of abortions in America or the amount of starving children in America?
The amount of starving kids in America.
That's cap.
That's cap? Did you Google it? Did you Google it?
I don't need to Google it.
You don't need facts. But you know what? Facts don't care about how you feel about it. I need you to Google it. He said, I don't need to Google it. I don't need facts.
Yeah, that's why I'm like.
And I'm just like, well, why argue this if you don't even want to look into it, right?
Okay, you just said that you don't need facts. You don't need to Google. You're just going to rely on what you know, which is your feeling, how you feel about it. And I was like, emotions.
Now,
what's the point?
In his defense, I will say that when we're talking about food scarcity and kids not having access to food, which is what this program is about, that doesn't mean you're necessarily starving to death on the side of the road. But guys, there's something in between starving to death, malnourishment, all these different problems, and having access to good food, right? Just because you weren't beaten to death doesn't mean you weren't abused. The same way, just because you didn't starve to death doesn't mean you weren't malnourished and had food problems.
Lisa, a single mother, lost her job as a makeup artist 3 years ago after she became seriously ill. She sends Lola to this day camp because a free breakfast and lunch, Monday through Friday, come with it.
She gets to eat here and it's great food, and sometimes there's not much of a choice at home.
Their food budget is $200 a month.
I never thought that I would be in this position, unemployed, struggling, trying to make ends meet, but that quick, it can absolutely happen.
But people look at it, and because someone doesn't raise their voice, or because someone, doesn't talk about their heart or how sad they are, they're like, this is not emotional. But this is. This is also hyper emotional, right? This is another form of like, and to be fair to him, I didn't do the best job of listening throughout the debate and really taking in what he was saying to be able to rebut him properly. So that's on me, for not being able to enunciate my arguments pretty well. But at the same time, when you get to a point in the conversation where, okay, so do you think that those kids should suffer because they have bad parents?
No.
Okay,
I
so
don't think they should, but bad shit happens.
on to the
You
next
know,
point.
and there's so many people that die from car accidents, bro. Fucked up shit happens. Like, we can't save everybody. We can't save everybody, bro. Like, it is.
But just because we can't save everybody doesn't mean we don't try. Yeah, like, yes, car accidents happen every year. Doesn't mean we don't try to make cars safer. It doesn't mean we don't make roads better.
And there's ways for children to get food.
Okay, man.
And
I'm like, why would you sit across from me and try to pretend like we're not supposed to try to help people?
We take steps in order for things not to happen anymore.
Absolutely.
There was a point where there was no seat belts in cars. So that will happen. People die from accidents. So they said, you know what? Let's implement seat belts. And we did that again. I'm sorry. What?
The government forced
Okay, cool. Then after the seat belt, what was it? Airbags. That would be the same thing with, I don't know, kids starving.
In the original video, he said,
And, you know, the left get generalized being a certain way, man, because that is the emotionally driven side.
and I remember hearing that, and then I asked that about him in this, and he's like, yeah, I feel like the right is a bit more logical and things like that. You said the left is more emotional, so I feel like you think the right is more logical?
Yeah, I'd agree with that take.
Okay. And as we discussed the whole topic of good versus evil, there's a portion of it that's really interesting.
The cancer needs to be cut out, bro. Ain't no talking to them. And it needs to be, get these motherfuckers out of here. It is war because ain't no talking to them. Ain't nothing you say to them. They need to be deterred. They need to be controlled. They need to be fucking exiled, decapitated, whatever your cup of tea is, bro.
That's what he said in the original.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be super good faith and think he was being hyperbolic and emotional at the time, and he didn't mean to say that we shouldn't take off the heads of people who said this stuff. But I'm going to just assume that. I'm going to be very good faith thinking he was just being spur of the moment. Let's listen. I'm a disagree with you. I think people who do evil things aren't necessarily evil. I think sometimes they're hurt. I think sometimes they are in a really bad place. I think sometimes these are folks that, you know, and it's almost ironic too, because I do believe that people should be punished for the things that they do and they should suffer those consequences, but I don't think they're irredeemable. Labeling someone evil, I think, is a way for us to look at something and then simplify it. But the reality is that things are complex. People are complex, and the reason why they get to that place is very difficult. You know, there's plenty of people who were white supremacists or part of horrible gangs and came back from it. There's how many people went to gangs and later on went to be the kind of people who keep kids out of gangs? Horrible things and came back from it. Same thing on the left side.
They better get back from it before it's too late. That's all I'm saying, because I ain't got time to care about why they are that they are.
Now, just before we keep going with this, I should also be accountable in the way that I engage in discourse, because plenty of times where I have probably written people off out of frustration because you just see a lot of shit every day. We all have those feelings. The important part is that when we're talked back from that ledge, we don't stay there. Because the moment you start looking at people and looking at large swaths of people and saying they need to lose their freedoms, they need to do this. Listen, y'all can think it's despicable. I agree it's just despicable. I agree there's a lot of bad things, but it doesn't mean that these people should lose their freedoms. Because then we go into a place now where you are now criminalizing things that aren't criminal. They might be abhorrent. They might be views you don't agree with, but part of living in a free society means that the views that you have, you're allowed to hold them and still be free. Now, we might not employ you, we might cancel you, but this idea that we're going to bring violence, that we're going to bring police officers, we're going to put you in jail because we don't like what you stand for, understand how that can be used for persecution someday. You might be a religious person. What if the country becomes much more liberal or much more atheist? You might be the person who they come for one day and call evil. This is definitely a time where you want to tone that kind of stuff down. Now, I know it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here on my soapbox and pretend I'm perfect. I've done it myself. But this is the emotional side of things. You know, when we talk about people being emotional, this is called being emotional. You might feel justified, you might feel righteous, but the moment you just say, everybody who did this is just evil, then what that happens is that going after these people becomes justice. If you hurt them, it's not bad because it's justice. You smited evil. That's why we got to be careful with how we talk about folks. If they're evil today, you could be deemed evil tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's that people, whenever they say stuff like that, they don't think that they could be on the other side, right? But it all depends on who's in power.
And something bad happens to you because you fucking spit on Kirk's grave, or you up here acting like you got shot in front of a fucking memorial, bro. Like, I could care less. But like, you fuck around and find out. Hopefully you figure that shit out before you find out.
Okay, but do you understand that you fuck around and find out is the exact sentiment that a lot of people had about Kirk? That he spewed that stuff, and so he fucked around and find out? I'm just saying. You might disagree. Oh, I didn't think he was hateful. They thought he was hateful. And that's my whole point. That's my entire point. You think you understand and you have the monopoly on what is. But there's a large segment of people who saw that Kirk would force his 10-year-old daughter who was raped to conceive the child because of his values. Now, you could argue this, you could say because of religion, whatever. You're forcing a 10-year-old to risk their life because of your religious values.
And some people will
a kid who can't consent, and you're putting their life at risk. You can argue whatever you want, but to say that's not a very contentious thing where easily a lot of people are going to think you're evil, you're crazy. But knowing that, even if I think that's wrong to do that, I would defend Charlie, and I would never say he's necessarily an evil person for having that view. I don't like the guy, but not liking the guy is very, very different than thinking he's evil. I definitely used the word monster a couple times, you know what I mean? Just because he was like, yo, don't eat no lunches, little motherfuckers. But even I need to tone it down. So I'm also taking accountability about my part.
Whenever Charlie said that, you know what, the collaterals of gun ownership is that we're going to lose a couple of lives, and that's all right.
But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights.
Well, guess what? By saying that, he fucked around and found out. Some people could think that.
Yeah.
And according to what you're saying, Stevie, it would be all just fine.
Just to get this out of the way, I think at one point he claimed I took Kirk out of context because I didn't mention the fact that he was a Christian.
Man, my argument was you took him out of context. People can say what they want to say, but you took him out of context, you're manufacturing a narrative. You didn't have Christian in that clip, though.
And watching it back in retrospect, you know, I did do some prep for it. I don't really do debates much. It's not something like I did in high school or whatever, so I'm just doing it on the fly. I think if I had to rate the performance, I'm going to give myself like a 3 out of 10. And this is where I give myself a 3 out of 10. I should have rewatched my video because I did mention the fact that Kirk was a Christian. In fact, I called him a Christian boy just before we played that clip. I've heard people call him a good Christian boy. It kind of bothered me because Stevie said he watched my video 3 times in preparation.
Yeah. And I've watched the video probably 3 more times. You didn't have Christian in that clip, though.
And he said I didn't call him a Christian, but like, you guys can go check the video transcript. It's right there.
He intentionally shows you that clip leaving out the context, dog, and you look at that snip, it looks hideous, man.
Do you feel like you manufactured a narrative on Kirk by showing those clippets, those snips of him in your video?
You said I took him out of context, right?
Not even take him out of context, you put your context on it.
A few minutes later.
Okay, and then you said that we were kind of dishonest with how we did that we clipped him out of context, and then we put our own context, right?
No, I'm not saying you put your own context. You didn't put the entire context.
Huh?
You put your context on it.
Taking someone out of context doesn't mean that you don't play their entire argument. That's not what taking someone out of context is. Taking someone out of context, for example, you grab a gun, you shoot somebody, I play that clip, and I'm like, this guy's a murderer. Not realizing that the full context is that this person had attacked you first, and then you pulled out the gun, and then you shot him. That would be taking someone out of context, right? Because in a form of self-defense, I instead made you look like a murderer.
Yeah.
If I play an abortion discussion, and you say, I'm against my daughter who was raped, who's 10 years old, aborting the child, whatever it is.
Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So that's insane.
But let me tell you why. No, hold on. Let me ask you a question.
The idea that you're taking out of context is like, maybe that's not what you meant or whatever. Now you can say, Abbo, you weren't very charitable when you played those clips. You didn't give him the best light. I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't think there's a light that makes that better. Probably anti-abortion. Am I right?
No, I don't know. I could care less. I respect his stance. I'm not pro, I'm not anti. I respect his stance. I don't agree with it, of course, but I respect it. I never said, I don't give a fuck about what anybody does with abortion.
But did you say it's a bigger problem?
Yeah, I said it's a bigger problem, but I didn't give a solution to it. I know it's a problem, but I never said what I want to do about it. I could care less.
You know, and keep in mind too, we put out our video maybe a week after. So by this point, Charlie Kirk had been in the news for a good 7 days. Everyone talking about his politics, his faith. It's like, it's a pro-life argument. We all know you think the fetus is a person. That's why you think it's wrong. It's fine. But to act like that's taken out of context is just so crazy. It's like seeing a Muslim person in a debate and they're like, I don't eat pork. And if I don't play the whole context of why they say they don't eat pork, it's taking them out of context. But like, you're Muslim. I think most people know why you don't eat pork. No? I agree. I would just say, you know, labeling people evil is just a blanket term to be able to just cut off any kind of sense of personhood in there. And like I said,
I don't consider them, but I don't consider them people. So
you don't consider them people?
Nah, nah, I'm not. I don't even have a discussion with you because and at the end of the day, I know, especially at this point, dog. At this point, bro, with the whole Kirk situation, bro, I dropped a video on this shit, dog. Like I've lost faith in humanity at this point.
This is all emotion. Remember when he said the left is emotional? This is all emotion. He saw tragedy. It affected him. He's having that like traumatic response. I don't have to put a trauma word on him, but you get what I'm saying. And he's changed his values because of it. That's an emotional response. You should sit on things, reflect for a long time, think about it. But he's already talking about it and saying my views have shifted. It's okay to pump the brakes after a big. It's like you have an argument with somebody. I fucking hate that bitch. That's emotional. That's when you have to calm it down. I be guilty of this sometimes. I get it.
You know, I am mentally, like, emotionally attached to my stance in this regard, dog. Like, I could care less about why you feel the way you feel.
But that's why I'm saying this to you. You can't be emotional about this and let it govern you, because that's why you get into the bad spot. Because I need you to understand, you saying this is the exact same stuff that leads to the other people looking at Kirk and saying he's an evil person. And when someone is just evil, killing them is no problem. When someone is evil, you justify the murder.
I get what I understand what you're saying, bro. I understand what you're saying, dog. And prior to Kirk, I probably would have sided with you.
It is what it is.
So he understands the logic. He knows it's correct, but he's not going to side with it because of the emotional experience.
That's what I'm saying. There's sometimes that you guys were agreeing. He wants to agree, but he's like, nah, emotion is blocking him.
But that means he doesn't agree. Because that's what's driving him. And listen, emotions are not bad. I'm not here to demonize emotions.
No.
But you have to be cognizant of what's leading you and also understand what's the basis for your ethics.
No, you don't
if it's just emotion, it's okay to question that.
When we're saying that, it doesn't mean that you have to walk around being like a robot, emotionless. That's not even better, because you lack empathy. You lack. It's not just that.
That's a good point.
People, you're gonna walk around like, no, I'm a stoic.
Yeah,
I am a stoic. You end up being a robot, and you lack
a sociopath.
And you don't have any more humanity, compassion, empathy, all of that.
Yeah. Logically, it still wouldn't even make sense, because ain't no talking to them. Like, there's no point in me having a conversation with somebody that's
not true, man. That's not true. Do you know how many people were talked out of killing people? Do you know how many people who had?
I'm talking about this instance right here, and I'm basing this anecdotally from the people that I've spoken with that are so misinformed, but they're unwilling to even entertain the idea that things are not the way that they believe them to be.
So I gave the valid example of people who've been talked out of terrorism. People who talked out extremism, the worst groups you could imagine. People who've talked hostage takers, literally get talked out of taking hostages' lives. There's so many people who get walked away from the ledge. There's people whose little job is to stop people from going beyond that, where their actions act in permanence. So the idea that people can't be talked to, how many people were left-wingers on the extreme and then ended up becoming more centrist or whatever the fuck it was? This idea that people can't be talked to, it's like, what was Charlie doing? Just talking to people in the middle? Of course not. How many folks have been radically changed from being completely agnostic to being hyper-religious? This idea that this is a special case and that the people who think this, they're different, bro. That's why they're evil. Because if they thought that, they'll never change. If you think that, you're having a hyper-emotional response, which has no basis in logic, no basis in reality. But it helps you justify the very baseline thing that you feel, and you don't have to think anymore. He's doing this to feel better about his stance, so that when he thinks what he thinks, when he gives into that desire of revenge or whatever the fuck it is, he doesn't have to feel bad. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with the idea that there's no talking to them. There's plenty of people who've talked away from extremism. It happens all the time. I mean, there's a guy, what was the black dude who goes up to Ku Klux Klan members and literally talks them out of, fucking white supremacy. He talks them out of it.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white out there.
There's plenty of people who do that.
I really think this situation is a one-off, because I'd expected KK to be that way, but the flooding of just random people out here saying the most sadistic shit, like I've never seen anything.
Did you hear what he said? He said people can come back from the Ku Klux, but they can't come back from this. So one of the most heinous terrorism groups in history, you can come back from that, but you can't come back from this. There's no logic to this. It's an emotional discussion right now. I get it. Things are heated. It's fresh. But this doesn't make sense. I'm pointing this out because we always make emotionality look one way. And I'm like, this is it as well. This is what it looks like.
Like, what would you compare this situation to that you've seen? There's nothing to compare it to.
I was on social media enough to see shit, man. Like a couple days after Trayvon Martin was dead, motherfuckers had a trend that went viral for to say that it's called Trayvoning. They would say there and lay in the exact same position as how he was killed. They did the same thing with George Floyd. Remember after he died, and motherfuckers sat on the floor while someone had their neck, and they would take these pictures. Yeah, look it up. I ain't even make it up. You can find these things. You didn't see it, but it doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? And when those right wingers did that, a lot of them felt bad for it afterwards, and they came back from that. They celebrated and memed on this man's death. Feel how you want about him. To take a picture and make fun of a man's death who was killed in cold blood by a police officer, which is crazy. Doesn't matter about his criminal. I don't care who he was as a person. That officer who did that was wrong. Okay? And the fact that people laughed at that and celebrated it is a fucked up thing. And if you can't admit that, that means you're unprincipled and you have no consistency. I can look at the Kirk thing and say that's wrong. Easy. If you can't look at these other instances and we can all agree they're all wrong. Pretending like only Kirk deserves to be treated fairly after his death, that's crazy. That means that you have no principle. You just like Kirk, he's special, he's like a god, and only his death needs to be sanctimonious. I say all this to say, even when Malcolm X died, there's people out there celebrating. It's not new. People who are contentious figures, who are political, they had people who hated them. They had people who were glad to see them gone when they passed, okay? Unfortunately, that's always been a reality. The only difference is now everyone got a phone and everyone feels more important than they actually are, so we all record our reactions. That's the only difference.
At this point, but it's not as big as now. Nothing is going to be as big as the next thing. Why? Because of time, because of technology, because of social media. Social media was not what it was, and people back then when the Trayvon thing happened, it was still big. And we still managed to hear about it and see people laughing about it. Yeah, no, it was, to me, same.
Yeah, and it's okay if this one feels different for you, if it feels more impactful. Everything is subjective, right? We all have our different reasons for feeling strongly. But pretending like one life is more important than the others, or one life deserves more recognition than the others, like, when you start doing that, you start creating a hierarchy between human life. Yep. Oh, Charlie Kirk's more important. It's like, no, all political violence is bad. We should just end point there, right? I hate this thing. I'm like, and then I'm like, what can you? You start deifying people. They're not gods. They're all humans. They all bleed red. So many examples of people laughing at people dying because they didn't like them and they didn't like what they stood for. That happens all the time. And these aren't even political people. These aren't even political people. Actually, that's a good point. People were memeing on folks who weren't even involved in contentious topics. Is motherfuckers existing in a spot or pulled over by the cops and get murdered, and nobody cares. People laughed at them. I'm not saying it should happen. My whole point is this has been a thing for a long time.
It was at this scale?
It might not have been to this scale or in this terms of virality. I'll agree with you there, but I'm just saying people celebrate death. It happens. Paul Pelosi. And actually, that's a great point. If you think that people that celebrate or mock folks who get attacked or suffer from political violence are irredeemable, or whatever it is, you understand that means Trump is irredeemable.
How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know?
You understand that his son is irredeemable? Because that's what they did after Paul Pelosi. They made their own little memes and laughed at him. I just want us to think, how many more people are you going to condemn? I asked the question, how many more people need to be decapitated? I don't know, he's being eyeballed, but it was still a crazy thing. I'll say, this discussion definitely, I feel as though this discussion, that's funny. Yo, leave that in. I feel as though this discussion definitely red-pilled me.
The red pill you.
Yeah, I want to start a podcast in Miami, and I think things have definitely changed for me now. I realize that I just want to think about making money, fucking babies, sugar babies.
Oh, you mean, okay, this discussion gave you cancer. Gotcha.
Glad you caught on. No, I just, there's a lot of self-reflection I also have to do in regards to how I engage with things, especially after listening to Erica Kirk's speech. I know a lot of people feel different ways about it, but whatever. For me, it was a good message, and I thought it made me reflect. So irrespective of whether it was genuine or not, I'm just saying the effect it had on me. And I think I'm going to take some time to, think about the way that I use my language online and how that might radicalize people or, inflame things in the wrong direction. We're human. We're going to slip up. The most important thing is that we have the discussions, that we talk about it, and that when we're faced with this logic, we don't resist it inherently. Because I think deep down inside, we know that forgiveness is a good thing. Forgiveness doesn't mean no accountability. But we know that these things, these values that we grew up on in all our stories from a young age, we know that they're the right thing. as we get older, we start to build walls around them and get separated. And we can't lose sight of that. Yes, people do horrible things. Yes, some people engage in an incredible amount of evil and they should pay it. It doesn't mean that there aren't people who aren't redeemable. How many people went to gangs and later on went to be the kind of people who keep kids out of gangs? That happens. So before we look at right, left, anybody on any side of the aisle and say these people are irredeemable, let's be careful. That's all I'm trying to say. Tensions are high. We all feel some type of way. But if we just keep using dehumanizing language, that's the bedrock for how someone grabs a rifle and goes and shoots somebody. That's the bedrock for how that guy went up into the house of the minister and blasted them in their home.
Just understand that dehumanizing language can be used against you as well. It's just whatever you spew out there can come back. Spit against the wind, you might get wet. Pause.
I mean, there's a lot of people who might look at this debate and our discussion and see what Stevie said about kids and food and might say that dude's evil.
Oh, 100%.
He said, I'm a capitalist. Like, you know what I mean? Your parents think it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
100%.
That's it. But, you know, like I said, I'm going to definitely do my own reflecting. So that's all for me. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, you need to reflect on your shit.
Thanks. I will. Once I get to Miami and start this podcast, nigga, me and these hoes going to be reflecting on a yacht, eating White Castle on this ferry for 10 G's.
Shut that shit off. Boys being boys.
Thanks. That's why I'm like, boy, I need people when I got the homies. Nigga. Hey, man, let's go lay down.
Hey.
Let's go. Hey, you got the fucking vest on and shit?
Don't talk to me like that, man. Oh, fuck you up.
Bro, all that aggression, bro, is so manly. All right, that's it.
The fuck is this setup? Well, and don't address it.